Welcome to RSAC Conference 2025. We're here recording live from the Cyber Risk TV studio and broadcast alley at Moscone West. I'm your host, Mandy Logan, and joining me for this interview is Deepen Desai, CSO and Head of Security Research at Zscaler. Welcome, Deepen.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I am so glad. I'm always happy when I get to see you and hear, because research is fascinating to me. That is more of my home or my milieu. So I am thrilled to see actually this very interesting phishing report that you just released. I believe you were one of the authors on it as well.
Yeah, it's my team that did a lot of work, but I was very
Right.
close to it. Yes.
Okay, so speaking about the phishing side, I want to go back a few steps because we know at the conference and as all of industry is adjusting to AI assisted defenses or actually having to try to secure the AI agents and even LLMs that they are using consistently. I want to know from the top right now, what is something that you are most encouraged by that Zscaler is doing in helping the clients cope with the AI assisted attacks?
Great question. So, look, when it comes to AI, there are two aspects that we help out with. Every organizations globally are on AI adoption journey to become more efficient, improve efficacy across different areas. Over there, Zscaler will help ensure that we securely enable organizations to adopt those AI applications. So you're able to apply data loss prevention, you're able to apply TLS inspection, you're able to make sure nothing good leaks out that you don't want to leak out. And then also you're able to identify those shadow AI applications that you have not sanctioned to be leveraged in the environment. The second aspect is where the bad guys are also leveraging AI to target organizations, right? And that's where we are. My guidance to my peers has always been, you need to lean in on a platform. Zscaler is one of them where we will leverage AI to fight AI, but there is no AI solution right now that is perfect. The keyword that I mentioned is leverage, right? It's not going to replace humans. It's going to allow you to do things with high efficacy, high efficiency, but it's part of the solution. So the second piece, which is even more important to do right now, as we wait for the AI-based defense to evolve, organizations must reduce complexity, simplify their network. And this is where the zero trust everywhere strategy becomes very important. Because if you do implement zero trust, you're shutting down vectors for AI driven attacks, for any kind of threat actors.
If I remember correctly, Zscaler is able to integrate very easily with several identity management platforms.
Yes.
Now, with the rise of AI assisted phishing attacks becoming increasingly targeted, first, can you mention some information from your reports on findings regarding that, but then also give our audience more information on how and why identity management and Zscaler are more effective for their end goal?
Great question. So one of the key findings that we saw in the phishing report this time is the volume of attacks went down globally. I believe that was 20% lower year over year. We see a clear shift from volumetric attack to uh, high quality attacks. This is where the threat actors are leveraging AI to craft very targeted emails. They're trying to bring in context of what's going on at that time for that organization before they come up with that phishing template.
Right.
They will use regional language, local information when they target certain regions of that company. So, clear shift from volumetric to quality. We also are seeing hybrid approaches where traditional way of performing phishing attacks is sending a link, and then the guidance we always give is don't click on that link.
Right.
But now you may get a phone call, you may get a voice message on your WhatsApp, right? And that is followed by traditional way of doing phishing, but they establish that trust by making that phone call that, oh, okay, this is this person, and then the chance of employee falling for those type of attacks go up. So we're seeing many of those hybrid uh, attacks increasing as well. So these are some of the findings that we highlighted in the report as well. And then, look, the things like adversary in the middle attacks, where they're able to evade some of the weaker forms of MFA, it still is happening. So FIDO2 compliant MFA is the push that I have always been
Absolutely.
asking
Yes.
all the peers to do. Yeah.
Oh, I fully agree on that. And going back, you were talking about email security protocols, and from your report, I was encouraged by the fact that you showed DMARC as one of the protocols that had helped reduce phishing by, I think it was 31.8%.
Yeah, one of the major changes that we saw, um, and this is, again, we're not able to accurately attribute this was the reason, but it makes sense. So, for instance, Google's Gmail, it stopped the feature that allows you to do bulk send,
Yes.
where you're able to send to 100 plus thousand destination addresses. So that bulk send feature was stopped. So it basically resulted in reduction in spam messages being sent out. And Google themselves also pointed out some of the numbers because of this, what the impact was. That is one of the reason, and like you said, the more secure protocol adoption is another reason where we believe. But um, I I would also like to point out that AI, generative AI usage by these bad guys is definitely another reason where why do volumetric attacks when the chance of people clicking through is significantly reduced when you're not using that context? The the chance
Right.
of them clicking goes up significantly when you use it.
Oh
Right?
yes, with the hyper targeted attacks, and like you mentioned, what I took part from your report was that phishing was kind of the number one thing that you were calling out for teams to really zero in on,
Yeah.
to really focus in on. And it seems to me, looking at surveying what products are out there, in fact, yesterday I was doing more research on one that was about being able to detect deep fakes more quickly. First, have you seen many effective adoptions of anything across industry that is helping with deep fakes? Or is this also what sandboxing within Zscaler helps handle?
So sandboxing is different, and I'll walk you through that as well. But so deepfake detection, there are many startups in that space. I'm not sure if we are there yet, where every
Right.
single, because uh, just like you're using AI to generate those deepfake content, you're using AI to detect that, and then you're using AI to evade that detection, and then you're using AI to again. So that cat and mouse game will keep going on. Um, Now, phishing is just a starting point.
Right.
They could use phishing, they could then send you a link, they manage to make the employee click on that link. The next stage often involves compromise of an identity or compromise of an asset by deploying a malware payload, which is, again, it could be um, very customized for the destination company that they're targeting. So this is where a sandboxing technology comes in, because sandbox is where you are able to detonate the payload in a controlled environment. You observe all the activity that the payload will perform, and based on that, you're able to convict whether it's a malware or a clean file.
Right.
And what has traditionally happened is sandboxing technology is old. People would use it as a point product, which means they will allow the user to download the file, and sandboxing happens in parallel. And then 5, 7, 10 minutes later, sandbox will say, oh, this file was bad. And then they have to go back and clean up that
Right.
patient zero.
Right.
And the speed at which the attacks are involving, it may already be late by then. So the way we do it is we're able to hold that file, we are able to prevent that patient zero infection from happening while that sandboxing is in progress. We may even use technologies
And
like,
for the end user, what do they see? What is experienced at that moment?
great question. So it could be one of the two. Some of the organization will use browser isolation, so
Okay.
they will serve stream of pixels. So the user is able to see the content, but no active content gets downloaded on the endpoint until the sandboxing
Okay.
is complete. Or it could be an end user notification page that says, hey, the file that you were trying to download, was deemed suspicious, it's going through sandboxing. As soon as its analysis is complete, the download will resume. So it could
And
be
do you
either or.
have, sorry to cut you off there, but do you have an estimate of time, usually how long that sandboxing process is?
So sandboxing involves running the actual file.
Right.
Now, if the file is seen for the very first time, it can take up to 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay.
If you have seen the file before, once that sandboxing is complete, within 30 seconds, we're able to propagate that information globally. So we will not do that sandboxing again because we know the file is convicted. So in that case, it's split second.
Okay, so and for security teams and end users, during that sandboxing time, they're able to still use every other application process, other browser tabs, anything else that's on their machine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the automatic protocols allow, if it has been found to be benign, it's released and
Yes.
they continue forward.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then that adds to your data on everything that needs to be addressed or allowed across all of your users, right?
Yes, because once we build a reputation for a file, it gets propagated to all global organizations that are going through Zscaler. So, to give you some perspective, on any given day, we're seeing about 500 plus million new unique files hitting our sandboxing global clusters.
Well, I do. It was 9 billion that are blocked, threats that are blocked a day, right?
Yes, so sandboxing is payload detonation. The 9 billion piece that you're talking about is threats and policy blocks that
Okay.
we're enforcing on a daily basis, which is, again, a huge number. It could be, yeah.
That is huge when I think of that. And I try to think of like your server setup and everything else that you have going on. And it's incredibly impressive. But please go back to what you were speaking on here for the, was it 500,000 new pieces of material gained each day?
So 500 million
500
plus
million, yes.
payloads
Okay.
hitting our sandboxes. So,
Oh.
so we will learn about those payloads and then we'll propagate that intelligence globally. That way we don't have to detonate those files again. Again, going back to phishing, right? Like I said, phishing is a starting point. We have seen them calling your IT help desk. We've seen them calling your employees to gain trust and then make them do certain things to compromise identity, compromise a machine. Then they will plant these malware.
Right.
Then they will try to move around within the environment. What all things are reachable from that first machine, first identity that was compromised. And then the end goal is always to reach crown jewel applications. The applications which are mission critical for that organization, where there is data that could hurt that brand if the bad guys are able to exfiltrate that. So that's the typical playbook that we see. It just starts with phishing.
Excellent. Now I want to go back. You mentioned earlier in our conversation about TLS inspection. Can you give us just a little bit more information on that?
Great question. So look, more than 90% of the traffic that is internet bound is TLS encrypted. TLS encryption provides privacy to the end user when they're browsing internet. So nobody's able to eavesdrop. But then the bad guys are also using that same encrypted channel to serve bad stuff and also to exfiltrate good stuff from these organizations, which is where TLS inspection on many of these URL categories become very important, because otherwise you're not able to detect those phishing pages,
Okay.
or you're not able to detect the data or even identity being stolen from your environment. So that's where TLS inspection becomes crucial, and we're able to do that at scale without having to worry about compute resources, because again, we have multiple point presence on that aspect.
Wonderful. So in our last few seconds here, what is one key takeaway from the phishing report and from what you're seeing in the field with it, dealing with AI-assisted defenses, or actually, I guess, helping the companies protect their AI assets? What's one main key takeaway for our audience?
Yeah, look, every single CXO must think about having a proper security and governance framework to protect their AI adoption. That's one. I'm going to give you two.
Go for it.
Second one is they must also have a plan to protect against AI driven threats, because they will see them. We're already starting to see them across the board, whether it's phishing, vishing, malware being delivered, data exfiltration. There will be use of AI by bad guys to perform many of these things. So you need to have an architecture like zero trust to make sure you're A, using AI to fight AI, and B, you're reducing those attack paths by implementing zero trust.
Oh, excellent. Deepen, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you.
To find out more about Zscaler, please visit securityweekly.com/Zscaler RSAC. For all RSAC 2025 coverage by Cyber Risk Alliance, please visit securityweekly.com/RSAC. Thanks again, Deepen, for the conversation. And to all of our audience, please stick around. We'll be back right after the break with more interviews live from the RSAC Conference 2025.